Welcome back to another SCP Resurrection, New Faces Hub reading, dear researcher. Today we'll be reading the last part, Tangled Web, by Grigory Karpin. Now without further ado. Tangled Web, Site Theta Operations Control. Avery burst into the operations room.
All right, you've had your hour. Let's wrap this up, people.
Sophia Light stared at the monitors, showing 0 contacts for her team's biometrics. Fuck. I just wish, she thought, but was interrupted by frantic beeping from one of the consoles. She turned to the security officer. What is it? Avery stepped up next to her.
It's time to go, Sophia. They're
back! They're back! Yelled the security officer. Light bent down to look at his screen. Who is it? Agents Miller and Deneb. He brought the display of their locators onto the big screen. Looks like Pompescu as well. Light turned to Avery. This time I'll say it. I told you so. Avery laughed.
Can you get them on the communicator?
SCP-4494 is already broadcasting, Director.
Well, answer, damn it,
Avery said. The security officer clicked a link on his screen, and the Spectre's voice came through the speakers. Director Light, I have Luceredia, Garlona, and Rainer here. We believe the situation is under control. The Spectre told you we had it in hand. Justice has prevailed. It was Sophia's turn to laugh. Thank you, 4494. Can I speak with Agent Deneb, please? Hello, Carlotta yelled through the speakers. Sit rep, Agent Deneb. Agents Miller, Pompescu, and I are unharmed for the most part, but we lost Phoenix in 1360. And the anomaly, what happened? We lost contact with all of you for the last few hours.
Long fucking story,
Luceredia said.
We pulled into another dimension? Some crazy shit happened.
Understood. Anyone need medical attention? I don't think so, Carlotta said. All right. I am going to get some containment crew down to your location, and then we'll have to get you into quarantine for a bit. Make sure you don't bring anything home with you, but good job, all of you. I'll come debrief you in a while. Stay where you are until the containment personnel arrive. Sophie turned from the console and looked at Avery, who was smiling and shaking his head. I honestly can't believe it. Light looked at the security officer. Send a crew down to where they are. What are the readings on the anomaly? Negative, Director. There was a surge of energy, and then the cat counters were set to normal readings.
And the anomalies that were missing?
Avery cut in. I'll have to get containment to check on them, sir. None of the original breaches were traditional, so I would want eyes on each of the 100 or so we lost.
Good, do that.
Avery turned back to Light.
Well, this might have worked out. I had my doubts.
We all did, Director Avery, said a voice from the door. Light turned and saw 05-10 walking into the room and almost gasped. You should not be here, Overseer. There are rampant anomalies loose in the site, and we don't even know if we've recontained the ones we lost. Yes, well, if this situation wasn't resolved, then it wouldn't have mattered if I was here or not. From what I understood from Director Avery, things were going terminal, and it wouldn't have stopped at this site, as you know. Avery looked at Light and shrugged.
What? I was calling a full evacuation. I had to inform the council.
Sophia nodded and remembered that she hadn't heard from Gat in a while. She turned and scanned the room, only to find him asleep on a desk in the back of the room. She shook her head and turned back to 05-10. So why are you here? Get your team sanitized and cleared, then bring everyone to your office. I'll have some information for you all then. And with that, she turned and walked out, her factotum, Salt, following on her heels. Director Light's office, 24 hours and 2 rounds of decontamination later. Sophia sat behind her desk while the surviving members of her new Alpha 9 squad sat in various visitors' chairs. 05-10 sat on her office couch, Salt was nowhere to be seen. Avery stood against the back wall. Vox was asked to leave by 05-10, which Sophia thought was rude, as he was cleared for all Project Resurrection files so far as she knew. In the intervening 24 hours, HMCL personnel had inspected all the containment chambers and reported that 90 of the anomalies were back in containment, as if they had never left. 10 remained unaccounted for. What I am about to tell you, some of the other overseers don't even know. Luceretia sat next to Carlotta, noticeably close. They weren't touching, but Sophia made a mental note to discuss declaration of workplace relationships at the next group briefing. Luceretia had several bruises on her face and arms. Given the fight with Truth and the overall events of the expedition, Sophia was glad to see the injuries weren't too severe. The official debriefing had occurred while the team was still in decontamination. SCP-4494 sat slightly away from the rest of the team, but with a view of the door and of Avery. Interesting, Sophia thought. Let me be clear. The following briefing is not to leave this room. In fact, I've already activated a memetic agent on all of you to stop you from repeating it. Sophia opened her mouth to speak, but 05-10 was already speaking again. Yes, Sophia, that even means Vox. 05-10 paused for a moment and scanned the small group, as if gauging their attention. She continued. A little over 10 years ago, an event occurred here at Site Theta that caused a XK-class reality restructuring event. The Thorn, as you've seen, did not exist prior to this occurrence. I've been the site director here for more than 10 years, and I have no idea what you're talking about, Avery said. But you wouldn't, would you? That's how a restructuring event works. Avery started to say something, but 05-10 interrupted him quickly. No, listen. You'll just have to trust me on this. A lot of things changed. This site used to hold a singular machine for a specific purpose, and now we have a black site containing anomalies undisclosed to the Foundation at large. Speaking of, this Thorn isn't listed in any of this site's databases, Sophia interjected. I'm getting to that. So, after the restructuring event, we were left with a residual anomaly, the Thorn. Residual from what? Raynor asked. You don't need to know. All that matters is that the Thorn is real and active. Only my office is even aware of its importance.
So what, you hid deep down and hope no one find? Luceretia asked.
No. There were so many antimemetic countermeasures on that door you shouldn't have been able to even notice it was there. But maybe it wanted you to see it. So the Thorn is alive? Carlotta asked. That would explain a lot of things. I don't know. Honestly, there's no indication that it is a sentient or living entity. We don't know nearly enough about it. So why are you telling us all this? Sophia asked. In this sort of situation, I'd normally anesthetize everyone involved. Usually, that would be the best option, but there's a wrinkle here. You stopped a potential follow-up restructuring event by hitting it with a stone.
Seemed like a good idea at time, Luceretia shrugged dramatically.
Yes, well, it worked so I can't really argue with that. The problem is that we haven't had any chance to research the Thorn or the effect of SCP-4867 on reality-altering phenomena. Additionally, the stone is officially uncontained, so you're all sworn to secrecy that is currently contained at this site. Sophia suddenly understood why 05-10 insisted she oversee the containment of the stone personally, after collecting it from the sub-basement. Why am I telling you this? Because from here on out, the people in this room will have a secondary objective to their normal duties, namely the hunting down and cataloging of any and all anomalies that concern the Thorn. That means research overseen by Director Avery and prioritizing mobilizations under Director Light to handle any emerging anomalous reactions from the Thorn. Luceretia laughed unpleasantly. Sophia and Carlotta both looked sharply at her.
What? You know it's bullshit. Shinoson is here and active, but we happen to be here when all goes big fuck.
Ja, Gouverneur na Ruskum, 05-10 said. Luceredia laughed.
Good, so you know what I say, am I wrong?
No, I intended whatever Team Director Light had put together to deal with the thorn, or at least to reconnoiter the situation. I had several countermeasures in place if the situation got out of hand. The SRA dispositioned throughout the base. I wondered why they were here when no reality warping anomalies were contained here, Sophia said. That would have been my first move as well. Too bad it didn't have the desired effect. What would have been your next move? Raynor asked. My next move would have been none of your business. Just because I've decided to clue you into some classified material does not mean I'm an open book, Mr. Miller. Raynor lowered his gaze to the floor. It's just, we could have died. We almost did. And we lost 2 people down there. 5601 and 1360 were hardly people. If we only had to lose the 2 of them, I would think it was acceptable.
Robot save us, which means save you too,
Luceredia said. Yes, and as I understand it, 1360 also almost cost us the mission several times. I'm glad the automation decided to help in the end, but honestly, Sophia, I don't know what you were thinking. Anderson hadn't contacted it in 9 years. From what Agent Pompescu has said in her report, 1360 was operating under pre-existing programming. Which means Anderson would have had to know this would happen. Jesus. Sophia sat back in her chair. Yes, that is extremely concerning. We'll need to bear Anderson in mind from here on out, 05-10 noted. So, we have an active reality bending anomaly, another anomaly that seems to reset the baseline reality in a localized fashion, 10 separate anomalies that did not reappear in containment, and Vincent Anderson mixed up with all of it. What else am I forgetting? Sophia asked. Samuel Meyer's actions add the fifthest to the mix. 05-10 looked at Avery, who cleared his throat and crossed his arms, but said nothing. She continued. And let's not forget the absolute disaster occurring throughout the Foundation and centralized at Site 19. Right, I should get back to that. I'm sure Dan has it all in hand, but I'd still better see if I can help. Sophia started busily collecting papers and other items into her shoulder bag.
Wait fucking minute,
Luceredia said. Carlotta put her hand on Luceredia's shoulder. Lucy, Jesus.
No, you all listen. The way this whole catastrophe happened makes me think Foundation not so different from Lodge.
Well, we aren't sacrificing people to a dead eldritch high priest like the Lodge. I'd say we're fairly different, 05-10 said.
No? Well, overseers seemed comfortable sacrificing us.
That's not the same thing, and you know it, 05-10 said.
Da! Not the same. Yet, not deep abiding reverence for life, no? You throw us to wolves. See we come through. Answer couple questions and it's on to next thing. Feels like Russia to me.
I understand why you'd be frustrated after the experience you went through, but this was highly classified information, Pompescu. That's why you weren't informed.
Information classified could have saved Bird's life, no? Maybe not have to leave Robot behind. We all could have met horrible fate, but information classified, so no need to tell Grant that.
It's not our usual protocols to throw unprepared lies at an anomaly until we understand it. There is an ethics committee who oversees much of the projects under the Foundation's purview, and I'm led to understand they can overrule the council sometimes, Sophia said. Yes, the oft-discussed ethics committee, always telling their betters how wrong they are, 05-10 said. But this wasn't an ethics situation, Light. I had no idea something this disastrous would happen. Besides, this is a special situation. Most of the Foundation doesn't even know this anomaly exists. I had limited options, and I trust you to lead your team as best you could. Besides, MTFs are often asked to go into anomalies with little information.
Blah, blah. Sacrifice bird, sacrifice robot. How long before you sacrifice Romanian psychic, huh?
Luceredia shook her head. Because of those sacrifices, people in the surrounding areas and maybe further get to go to school or work tomorrow. And without having to worry about reality cascading them through a brick wall. 05-10 was yelling by the end of her statement. She took a deep breath and straightened her blazer.
Then there's all the overseers backstabbing and manipulating others. You tell us things other overseers do not know, right? And Light have attempted on life not long ago. This all seems very Russian to me, like KGB in late 80s.
Everyone involved at the highest levels is concerned with the primary motivation of the Foundation, namely, preservation of the Veil for the sake of humanity. 05-10's tone had softened, and she held her hands open, palm up as she spoke. I know we seem cold. For Christ's sake, we are cold. But at the end of the day, we're all fighting to keep anomalies away from the public.
World almost ends, and you're into next thing. You all do this. Next school, next mission. This whole thing feels like bad game.
Luceredia said. She stood and walked out of the room. Carlotta moved to follow, but stopped. She turned to look at both Sophia and 05-10. She's had a long couple of days. We all have. It's fine. I'll talk with her, but first I need to get back to Site 01 and see what's happening. The rest of you, I suggest you take the day and try to relax. Sophia got up and walked towards the door. We did, didn't we? Raynor said with a smile. Of course we did, friend Raynor. I told you, with the Spectre on the case, justice would be served, SCP 4494 said. Sophia laughed and looked back at 05-10 to find she had left the room. She shook her head. She walked to Carlotta and put a hand on her arm. Talk to her, will you? Carlotta nodded. Sophia shook Raynor and SCP-4494's hands and said, You both did wonderfully, and you have a place on the team, so don't go anywhere. They nodded, and she turned to leave the room. If she hurried, she could get back to Site 01 in a few hours. Hopefully Dan hadn't given himself a heart attack with all those energy drinks. Carlotta found Luceredia outside the site entrance, sitting under a tree. She was kicking at the snow in her black combat boots. She wore a winter coat over her short-sleeved shirt and jeans, but still emanated fierce strength despite the faraway look on her face. Mind if I sit? Carlotta asked.
Been told this free country.
Carlotta sat next to Luceredia and looked across the snowfield adjacent to the main entrance. She pulled her coat in a little tighter. The sun was going down and the frigid air was creeping into every free space it could find.
If you too cold, you don't need to sit here. I don't need babysitter.
I'm not babysitting you, Jesus. Carlotta shook her head. And I think my ass can stand the cold for a few more minutes. I'll just sit here for a while with you.
Okay.
They silently sat there, looking over the frozen field. Carlotta heard an owl hooting in the distant woods a few hundred meters away. Otherwise, it was very quiet. So, Carlotta started, but was interrupted by Luceredia's hand held up to stop her.
Wanted to apologize. Shouldn't have kissed you like that without consent. Is that the right word?
Carlotta nodded. Yeah, that's the word. I know, and I agree. You shouldn't have. Not least because I'm your colleague. Sexual harassment is a thing here, you know?
We have that in Romania too, stupid.
Carlotta laughed. She turned and looked at Luceredia until the other woman met her eyes. I accept your apology.
Da, good.
Carlotta moved a little closer to Luceredia's side, not quite touching.
So, what now?
Luceredia asked. I don't know about you, but I could use a drink.
Drink would be good.
Luceretia leaned against Carlotta's shoulder. You're not gonna leave, right? Carlotta asked.
This is fucked up business. But no, don't think I will.
Good. And that's the end of SCP Resurrection New Phases Hub. Thank you very much for coming to the reading, dear researchers. Next, we'll have to see what we move on to. There's the direct sequel, Resurrection His Will It Be Done Hub, but that hasn't been updated in 3 years at this point. Alternatively, we might move on to Devil's Advocate Hub, which was updated more recently but is also unfinished. But we shall see. Worst case, we touch on some of the standalones of Splinter Cannons. For now, though, thank you very much for coming. It has been an honor reading for you, and good luck out there.